So he's basically Rhysand repackaged. How do these dragons have more personality than the actual fucking characters? This book is absolute proof on my stance that new adult is just YA but porn. When I tell you I have never canceled a pre-order so fast. I need to wet my palate for this because I swear I'm going to be screaming. What's up, guys? My name is Lulu and these are my books. Today we're going to be making another book review, but if you haven't seen by the title, it's not a good one. Oh god. And if you're not familiar, we're gonna be talking about Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Okay, so let's just say, I'm going to tell you a little story. This book came out in May, right? And at that time, I wasn't on a book buying ban. I was leaving a Barnes & Noble right before work. And when I saw this from the corner of my vision, and I just knew I had to have it. So I have a first edition copy of Fourth Wing. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. It always seemed interesting. And I was also very excited to get to it. So I decided I'm going to read it. I was going to make an experience log about reading it. But then I quickly realized that A, I had just started school, so that was not going to work out for me. B, I was going through this book so quickly that I just knew for a fact that I wouldn't be able to vlog all of my reactions to it. And C, I also just didn't like it. And that feels so bad to say because this book is one of the most hyped books of this year. Like, once it came out, immediately, like, all of the hype just started going up into the fucking stratosphere. And people love this book. People adore this book. People will hear no criticism on this book, which is interesting because that's exactly what happened with Colleen Hoover's books. And look what happened to her. So before this video, okay, I'm going to confess, I didn't even finish this book. I got 70% of the way through. I think so. I think that's around where I stopped. I stopped at the part where they first have sex for the first time because I just found it so ridiculous and the smut wasn't even good. So, right. But let me just say, I stopped reading this book and then I went to go find other reviews. I found blog posts and YouTube videos on what happened near the end, what happened at the end of the book, spoiler reviews for that, and also what other people were thinking about this book. Because now there's criticism surfacing. Now criticism is surfacing about this book. And in that vein of thought, I decided, let me add my 2 cents, because a lot of the problems people are having with this book are the same problems I'm having with this book. So, without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about the whole thing about Rebecca Yarros originally being a romance author and then segueing into fantasy with this. Okay, so I don't think that this is a bad fantasy. I really don't. It has a lot of fantastical elements. The powers thing is also really good. Like, the way things are set up to be consumed are not bad. My problem is with pretty much everything else. Because this book starts off with so much potential. It has a great concept. It's not wholly original. However, I can get by that because nothing is ever really original anymore. But either way, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with the fact that this is not original material, and it probably never will be. The problem was how things started off very info dumpy. So let me put it in as an example. Violet, as she's doing this perilous journey, Miss Yados, she makes it a point to get in some exposition by giving us some backstory in the world in the form of Violet just spitting out facts and then interrupting it with her remains on the parapet and stuff like that. You know, it's a thing, right? And that continues throughout the rest of the book with just infodump after infodump after infodump on Violet's own thoughts, because again, she has the mind of like a scribe. She's very intellectual, but she's supposedly an intellectual, meaning she just has a lot of this meaningless knowledge just in her noggin. What is she supposed to do with that knowledge? I don't know, spit out exposition for the reader. It seems like that's all she does. Violet doesn't have much of a personality, in my opinion. Violet is pretty much our typical female lead, like in any fantasy book. She reminds me a little bit of like a mix between, who is it? She's a mix between Tessa Gray from The Infernal Devices and Farah from ACOTAR. And when I say that's not a good comparison because it's not even done well, I effing mean it. So yeah, that's one thing. The weird part of it is that okay. The weird part of it is that somehow Violet is good at everything, yet she has a chronic disease that is never named. And though there are some accommodations made for her, like, that's also really good. Like, the fact that she does have a disability and that they're very, like, forthcoming with it. And that it's not really being hidden. However, it is being accommodated for. And no one exactly treats it as, like, a weakness. Which also is kind of weird, considering the fact that this entire place, the entire point of this whole thing is that she could die at literally any moment, yet she's never in any actual real danger. Like, that's the thing. That's also another thing that really bothered me about the fact that, oh, this place is so brutal, and Violet is so frail and dainty. And like Dane is like, yeah, so you are. And Violet's like, bitch, and she's just automatically good at killing people. I don't get it. I don't, even though she's only had 6 months of formal training compared to everybody else who's been training for this their entire fucking lives. How is it that Violet is better at everybody than everything else that she's only had 6 months of training for? The math doesn't math there, but there are a lot of things that don't make sense. We're getting there, but that particular one does not make a whole lot of sense. All right? So again, the concept is great. I love the concept of just like there being a war college and a war brewing and everything. However, when you actually think about a lot of the things that are happening in the background of the story for half a second, it ain't really working out. Like, let's just say, okay, so I just thought of this. So apparently, you know, how this military, right? They had put down a rebellion. Right? And they put all of the rebellion leaders' kids into the war college, giving them access to the military, meaning they get the opportunity to have power and status within the military. That decision on its own does not make any damn sense, especially for the fact that Xaden has become like one of the highest ranking people of the Writers Quadrant, and like Xaden is one of the highest ranking people in the Writers Quadrant, and this man is the son of the leader of the whole rebellion that killed Violet's brother, that General Sorngale is quite literally very against, and you know, Violet's sister Mira is quite literally like, stay away from Xaden Ryerson, right? Because somehow this man was allowed power, even though this was meant to be a punishment. That didn't make sense. That very much did not make sense. I didn't understand why that was a thing. See, it would have made more sense to me if Xaden had been like, what? You know, if Xaden had been like put into like the infantry. He wouldn't be able to choose to go into the Riders Quadrant. If he was like put as like some sort of cleaner around the base, or if he was put in like some sort of place where he wouldn't be a danger to anybody, to the rest of the regime. Because somehow this man, he was expected to just not want revenge, even though he's very clearly gunning for Violet for the majority of this book until their dragons start having sex. I'm not even going to get into the romance yet because we're going to get there. But right now, I'm talking about all of the plot holes and the plot and what's weird about this book. When I tell you I have never canceled a pre-order so fast, I fucking mean it. Okay. This book wasn't, okay, so I'm going to say this. The writing was not bad. If you know me at all, you know I'm very, very, very picky about writing styles, and specifically how you write it and how you feed the information to your reader. I'm heavily, very, very picky about that because I myself am a reader. I'm a reader and I'm also a writer. So I'm very picky about this thing. Here's my problem. My problem is that this book jumps around too much for the writing to be good. So the book is good in sections. That's the way I would say it. When Violet isn't info dumping, when Violet isn't, you know, simping over Xaden, because she does that literally every other page. I'm not even joking. Oh my god, the amount of times this girl reinforces to us that Xaden is the hottest person she's ever seen, that she wants him between her legs. The fact that she literally wants to be riding his dick. All of this entire fucking book is not even funny. It was actually disgusting. And then once they actually had sex, it was the writing on that wasn't even that great either. It just, this book felt like it was like a rewrite of a Wattpad story. That's what this felt like kind of to me, because the dialogue is also really cringe. The way Violet talks about Xaden is really cringe. The way she's pretty much objectifying him, like, that's not cute at all. I mean, I get it. Like, I get why people like Xaden. He's kind of, like, I didn't know what Tawny meant when I read that, and then I looked up the interview, and apparently it's meant to say that he's a person of color, and I'm just like, so he's basically Rhysand repackaged? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Because no, if anybody's going to try and be Rhysand, don't, because you're not going to succeed. You're not going to succeed at all. Like, I swear. The way he's described, too, just immediately screams, love interest. It's not even like, this is pitched as an enemies to lovers, right? There was no point at anything where they were enemies at all, really. Because Violet's literally just horny for him. Xaden just goes from wanting to kill her to being like, okay, I guess you exist, okay? To a reluctant alliance, and then friends, kind of. And then they have sex, and then Violet's confessing her love for him. Like, that didn't make sense. And I expected better of this romance, right? Because Rebecca Yados wrote almost exclusively romance stories before this. Like, I can kind of excuse the sloppy kind of world building wherein it's quite literally, wherein, like, she just doesn't know how to structure a fantasy story. Like, I can get that. I get it. I absolutely get why this is kind of how it is. However, it still doesn't make any sense. It truly, truly doesn't to me, how a published author, a traditionally published author, can have a plot that has so much potential but can fall so flat because it's trying to be something that it is not. Like, I think this book entirely cannot just decide whether or not it is supposed to be like a smutty, like hot, sexy, new adult fantasy, or if it's trying to be, you know, listen, I will stand. This book is absolute proof on my stance that new adult is just YA but porn. I will continue to say that, and I will never stop, because this is the perfect example of that. Literally, Violet reads as if she's some sort of 14-year-old. She reads as like some sort of like teenager that's going through puberty. She's in the middle of puberty. And it's also like too many times it's reaffirmed that she's so small and slight and stuff. Someone in a review, who is it? I don't remember who it was. Honestly, the name escapes me at the moment. But someone said that literally Violet is described as kind of the opposite of Daenerys Targaryen. And I was like, that is uncomfortably accurate, and I don't like it, because Daenerys Targaryen is a good character, and if you're gonna botch it, if you're going to make a fanfic character out of her, at least have it be good. Do not disrespect her. Do not disrespect the Mother of Dragons. I swear to God. Anyways, also, let's go into the fact that Violet's like kind of like illness, like that I think is one of the only things of this book that it does well, other than the dragons. Okay, so we're getting into the dragons. The dragons were my absolute favorite part of this book, because the dragons had personalities. And I love it in books when animals have personalities, especially the fucking these dragons have such great personalities. How do these dragons have more personality than the actual fucking characters? Like, they can't even talk. They can do telepathy and all that shit, but they can't even talk. Also, something else that also bothered me a lot is that dragons in this world are continuously described as the superior species. Like, they are faster, they're stronger, they're smarter than the humans, and yet they bond with humans and don't just go, hey, obey us or we're going to torch you. Because I guarantee you they would listen. They would fucking listen. But here's the thing that's driving me kind of nuts, is that kind of reminds me a little bit of Game of Thrones. Because in Game of Thrones, not exactly Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon specifically, because I've been watching that and I love that show. In House of the Dragon specifically, Viserys Targaryen makes a statement to Rhaenyra, young Rhaenyra, about how the illusion that they control the dragons is a lie. And one must understand that to be able to rule effectively. And the same kind of statement is also made by Xaden near the beginning of this book, wherein he says to the whole new amount of cadets that it's like you can't control these dragons. These dragons will do whatever the fuck they want, and if they want to torch you, they will torch you. You just have to prove to yourself to them, because they think of you as prey, nothing more. That would have been great if it was actually affirmed in any way possible. Dragons were Rush's characters. They had great personalities. I'm just going to say that. These dragons had amazing personalities. I don't know where the personality for either any of these characters was. So there's this character named Jack, right? He's just an ass from the get-go. I don't really understand why he's there, really, other than to be a dick. I truly don't. Truly don't. Like, he had no purpose within the plot other than to be Violet's like anti-fan. That was it. He had no purpose in the story other than that, and I don't know why he was even there. I honestly forgot about him from time to time. What else? Oh yeah, also people be dying left and right in this book, but also plot hole, 6 or 7 months passes, like there's a 6-7 month time jump somewhere in this book, and then Violet says that nothing happened. Like, she didn't get injured, she didn't get killed. Somehow nobody else got killed in those 5 or 6 or 7 months, when the entire point of this college is literally that, hey, you could die at any moment, just so everybody else can greaten their chances of being bonded to a dragon and not having to repeat the year. That drove me nuts. Also, the amount of people who die, like, within these pages but somehow the military is struggling for soldiers and they don't think to try and, you know, prolong the lives of their potential cadets? Possibly. Or for the dragons that are not willing to bond with them, just put the other ones into different quadrants? Would that not be possible? Is that what's happening here? I don't get it. I do not get it. I really don't. Let's see. What else did I like? The powers thing. The powers thing was really interesting, I will say, because it's not just the dragons can breathe fire, they can share powers with their rider, which I thought was really cool. Like, you know, how Violet's mom can control storms and whatnot. And Violet can, like, literally shoot down lightning at people. And yeah. Also, the whole thing with the threshing. Oh my god. The threshing was the most ridiculous thing I've ever read. I'm just going to say it was absolutely fucking absurd. Because tell me why these cadets who have been training to kill and ride dragons for the past, like, maybe, like, half year are being made to simply be dropped down into a dragon breeding ground and parade before the dragons by being like, oh, you should pick me because I have the nicest personality. Like it's the fucking Met Gala for these guys. Why? How does that make sense? What? I was literally shocked. I was gone. I was deceased. I didn't know why on earth that was a thing, but it was. It happened. I don't know why. Somehow Violet got 2 dragons out of it. I also don't know why that had to happen. And I don't know why people were so shocked to see a baby dragon as well. Because it's like, did it not occur to you that dragons, you know, have babies and that's how you get more dragons? I don't know. I really don't know how people how that just didn't math for them, but a lot of things in here don't really math. So yeah. Let's go back to talking about like what tried to be a love triangle between Violet, Xaden, and Dane. See, Dane in general was a horrific character. Like, I got his position. I got why he wants to protect Violet and everything, but I don't condone the fact that he's reading her memory without her consent, and I also don't condone the fact that he continuously tries to reaffirm that she's weak and defenseless. Like, genuinely, I really don't, because, again, Violet continuously affirms that to herself, but continues to do feats that are acts of God and man that she simply shouldn't be able to do because of her disability, really. Because how is she able to take down men twice her size without breaking something? How is she able to literally throw daggers without accidentally dislocating her leg, her arm, her wrist, whatever, something? Because again, it's never specified what her disability is. There are accommodations made for it, but like quite literally, all of the things that she does, all of the things that she's supposedly immediately good at, I don't get how she does any of it without some form of injury to herself, because apparently she's just really easy to be injured, but that's never really specified here, really, at all. Because I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay. So yeah, the supposed love triangle thing. No, it's not a love triangle. Someone called it a love corner. And that's what I'm going to be calling it for the rest of my days. I'm stealing that term. Thank you. But it was supposedly a love corner, but it couldn't even be that. It was literally just very obvious who Endgame was. And Endgame didn't even come in a very satisfying way. The romance in general just was not satisfying to me in any way possible, because like I liked the progression of their relationship. I did. However, the fact that they just immediately go from a reluctant alliance to having sex because their dragons are having sex, to Violet going, I love you, and him not even saying it back, which is a reference to Twilight, by the way, quite literally just drove me nuts, because it just felt like there could have been more done with that. Like, and this is supposed to be a 5-book series. It's getting 4 more books. So if you couldn't have just sprinkled that out throughout the rest of the series, what are you doing? And it drove me nuts. Because again, Rebecca Yarros started off as a romance writer. Like, how can she just rush something like this? Like, if they had just, okay, so I wouldn't have minded if they had just, like, you know, accidentally, like, had sex without the love part, and then have them do more of that tension thing, more of that back and forth. But no, there was also this, like, third act breakup thing that didn't really make much sense as well. Maybe I got a little further in this book. I think, yeah, no, see, here's what I did. I skimmed, like, the end of the book, kind of, before I looked for, like, book reviews to see, like, how this was being received, really. And I found the third act breakup, and I read through a little bit of it, and I was like, what the hell? There wasn't enough of the book left for me to even get invested in it, because I knew it would be bad. But I read the last page. Of this book. And of course Brennan's alive. Like, it's not a bad twist. It really isn't. However, the fact that Brennan's alive and with the resistance instead of with his family kind of is a little bit interesting. Like, I get it. Kind of. We don't know much about Brennan at all. I get it, kind of. It's supposed to be a good twist and supposed to set up for the rest of the books. I get it. I really do. However, the way it's revealed, nah, not good. Not good at all. He literally, Brennan just goes, "Welcome to the revolution, Violet." That's it. This man who's supposed to have been dead for like 5 years. No, he just goes, "Welcome to the revolution, Violet." Nothing. That did nothing for me. Okay. But going back to the relationship between Violet and Xaden, again, it just, like, the progression was okay. I didn't mind it. It's just the fact that the last part of their relationship was very much rushed to the end of this book. Like, I wouldn't have minded it if the book were longer and, like, that was taken more, and it took more time to be spread out. But then I found out that this was getting 4 more books, and I was like, you could have done so much. You could have done so much for this book. You could have done so much for that romance, especially since you started off as a romance writer. But I digress. Like, the plot I can kind of excuse, because again, some of these plot holes are things people don't think about. But if a critical reader, such as myself, actually thinks about it for 2.5 seconds, they're gonna find them, and it's not gonna be great, because again, this is a traditionally published book. This book has so much hype surrounding it that it's actually fucking insane. And there are immediate glaring plot holes as to the entire setup of the romance. The entire setup of the world is really just not there. Also, the war in general is never really described. I was ready for there to be some politics, especially since this was a war college. Like, I was ready for them to be like, okay, so we're doing this war, and, like, I was expecting there to be major changes on both sides. I was expecting there to be some changes that would alter the pace of the fighting, alter the pace of the war. No, we don't even know what the war's over. It's literally just, yeah, we're fighting a war and we just need to be ready to fight. But why are you fighting this war? It's never described. And the only thing we know is that there's a revolution because Brennan's part of it, apparently, somehow, because the man's not dead. I need to calm the fuck down. I'm just going to say it. This book wasn't great. I would give it maybe 1.5, 2 stars. It just, the things with, like, the way this book is hyped is disproportionate to how much it hits. You know what I mean? And also, I've heard, like, from what I've read, from what I've seen, people like it a lot, especially, like, who, like, more mature readers who haven't been on Booktok their entire lives, think of this as more of a nostalgic read because it takes from so many other places. And yes, I do feel that. It does take from a lot of other places. It takes a lot from ACOTAR. That's all I'm going to say. It takes so much from ACOTAR. Mainly the relationship, but the relationship isn't even that great. Like, it's not even done well. I'm just going to say that. But quite literally, the way this book is done, the execution is not great in comparison to how great the plot could have been. Do you understand what I mean? Like, I get it. People like this can enjoy this for the nostalgia factor, but I think there's just too much absurdity really within this to really be able to take this book seriously. Because, again, something that drove me nuts was the dialogue. The dialogue really reads like those old Wattpad stories that you read just for the fuck of it, not because they were good, not because they were interesting, but because the dialogue was so funny that you just couldn't help but continue. And that is exactly what this felt like. Like, Violet and Dane's first conversation alone is literally just them flirting with each other because Violet was slightly horny for him in the beginning, and then she turns to be horny for Xaden for the rest of the damn book. And the amount of times Violet just had to reaffirm how hot Xaden was made me think he's probably average. He's probably like somewhere below average. Like, she's trying to convince herself that he's hot. And like, I'm just sitting here like, okay, budget resand. Why are we simping for it again, I suppose? And then Xaden just kind of goes from, I'm gonna have you killed, to, you're, okay, I guess, to, you are my everything, and I love you, and I adore you, and I want everything to do with you. I want you to have my babies. And I'm like, whoa, where did that pipeline come from? Again, this book drove me nuts. I couldn't tell you why. Oh my God. This book, for how beautiful it is, just is not worth what this was not worth $30. I'm just going to say that. This wasn't worth the $30 that I paid for it. Oh my God. I'm sorry. This is a mess. And the thing is, it's not like the book was horrific. No, the book was fine, I guess. Like, I'm saying all this stuff out of a place of like, just, it isn't great. And again, my firm stance on the fact that new adult is just YA, but with graphic porn, will continue to persist. Because again, the writing in this is very juvenile. Even though they're 20 and 23 years old, the writing is very, very juvenile. Xaden is automatically more mature than her. There's a huge maturity gap between Xaden and Violet, for once. And also, something that I did find kind of cute about the relationship is that he calls her Violence, which is okay. Okay, it's a cute nickname. I get it. It fits the tone of the story. Oh, we haven't even talked about tone yet. Oh. Okay, so again, the way this book is supposed to be written, it's kind of dark academia plus dark fantasy kind of thing, with like the whole, the war brewing overhead and the dragons and the death, the constant death. Yeah. No. There is no somber tone to this book. This book is very tone deaf. It's very happy-go-lucky at times, and even then, like, that doesn't fit the tone of the book either, or like the spaces that are described. Like, there's that, and then also there are these emotionally heart-wrenching conversations that they have, especially specifically between Dane and Violet. They're not great. They progressively get really bad throughout the book. But their first one wasn't horrible, but it just didn't fit the space they were in because it was a deep, very cavernous space and they were under like a time crunch and stuff like that. And like the tone of their conversation just did not fit the rest of the book really, because everything up till that point had just fallen very flat. And then there's just this dark cavernous space that's supposed to make that conversation very dark and deep and meaningful, and just didn't work. And it progressively does not work for as long as this book goes on. The tone of this book just does not fit what it's trying to portray. I think I would like it a little bit more if the vibes had been there. Because essentially what this book was to me was it was trying to be vibes, but there was nothing else. And the vibes didn't even hit. I just truly, I could not care. And I could not care less about this book. I couldn't care less about what was happening. And I'm not going to be reading the remaining books. I don't care how pretty they are. I'm not going to be picking them up. I don't even know if I'm going to keep this. I don't... See, the thing about me and my collecting of pretty editions of books is that I just want books on my shelves that I'm going to be proud to have. And specifically, very specifically, this book, like, I was proud to display it on my shelves. I displayed it edges out, for crying out loud, because it was so pretty. I got it just because it was a pretty book. But just how little this book hit in comparison to, like, the beauty of the physical book itself, to the actual plot that it was supposed to be portraying, was an absolute fucking disaster. I'm going to say that. I'm probably going to sell this. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it, really. I'm probably just going to sell it on Pango or Mercari or something like that. Because I can't justify keeping this anymore. Because I read it, I didn't like it, and I'm not going to be reading it again. So there's no point in having it on my shelves. But it's pretty enough that I want to have it on my shelves, but I just didn't like it enough to justify keeping it. You know what I mean? Honestly, the only thing I can really say is that I was really disappointed by this book. I was expecting more, and it just wasn't great. And honestly, I feel like my expectations were rightfully high, not because it was majorly high, but because this was from an author that was already traditionally published, that had already had like some very well-selling books. And also someone who had experience in writing romance. But no, none of these things hit. None of these things are well executed at all. And I just don't see why everybody is so, like, diehard for this damn book. It's not great. It's nothing special, really. It's just kind of like a repackage of relationships and concepts from different books from over the years that were really popular, really viral, stuffed into one book that wasn't even good. It reads kind of like fan fiction. That's something that I can't really look past, especially when it's a traditionally published author, and B, someone with mountains of years of experience in writing books. And we haven't even talked about, can we talk about the fact that this book came out in May, and Iron Flame is coming out in November? That is what? A little bit more than 6 months, right? That is not nearly enough time to write a decent book. That is enough time to write like a good rough draft or something, to get all of your thoughts down on paper, and then you spend the next like year and a half editing. But 6 months to write a whole new book, a whole sequel to a book that wasn't that great in the first place, I don't think that's going to work out. I really don't. Personally, I think this is going to be a situation where it's going to age kind of like Divergent. It's going to age kind of like Twilight, where it has this amazing hype. It has this like larger than life image among the book community. And then in a couple of years, we're all gonna be like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't that great in the first place, but I liked it for the nostalgia, so I guess. I think that's what's going to happen with this book, because that's just what it feels like to me. It feels like it's going to be one of those situations, because this book, it has too much. It had so much going for it, but it falls so flat, at least for me. This isn't like a book that you should read as like a seasoned fantasy fan. Definitely, this is definitely more introductory fantasy, which I can understand, but it's not even good introductory fantasy. It's not even good introductory fantasy, and I really just don't understand how and why this book got published the way it did, or why it has so much hype, other than the fact that the first editions were really pretty. I guess I'm just disappointed by the fact that I didn't like this book, because I thought that I would. I really did. I was so confident that I actually decided to pre-order the book. But no, I canceled that pre-order. Like, I canceled that pre-order so fast you couldn't catch the dust. My fingers move so fast. I swear to God. But anyways, that brings this video to an end. My voice is nearly gone, but you know, I had fun. I had fun ranting about this book. I don't know why I have so much fun ranting about books, but you know what? I was completely fine ranting about it. I felt okay about it. This book just was not for me, and it definitely was not something that I would ever pick up again. And honestly, I think all of my criticisms are valid. I think everybody who is actually being able to criticize this book as it is, as the hype goes on, is very brave. Because again, the fans of this book are kind of scary, but the fans of pretty much anything are pretty scary. So yeah. But anyways, guys, that brings this video to an end. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. I post weekly on this channel, so don't miss out. And also, if you want to see more of my content, And also, leave me comments down below what you want to see from me, what books I should put on my TBR, what books I should move up my TBR video, and just send me comments about how your day was and what you're reading now. I always get so excited when I see comments from you guys. It makes me feel so happy and appreciated. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I love my little Lumas. Bye!